Support Narativ's independent journalism at patreon.com/narrative and check out our podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe and download. Hey folks, welcome to the Friday Night After Show. It's been a hell of a week. As I said on one of our promos, it's not the end of the world, just the end of the week, and here we are on the Friday show. Hi LB and hi Greg Oliar. It's nice to see you guys.
Hi.
I feel like I've got so much to talk to you about. It's been crazy this week.
Yeah. Let's hope nobody important dies in the next hour. Let's just,
let's
just try to get through. Yeah. That would be good if we could just.
Rough. That was a rough moment.
Yeah, we're through it.
We'll
though.
Try to keep an eye. Yeah.
Yeah, we are going to keep an eye on things. Hopefully, on the chat, we've got a good bunch of things to talk about, and later on in the show, we're going to play 270 to win, which is a simulation of what might happen on election day or whenever the final results come out this year. So that'll be fun.
This is not my forte. This is not my strength. Everybody.
Oh, it's none of ours. I don't think it's mine. Although I will say in 2016, I actually correctly predicted the exact number of electoral college votes that Trump won by, which is a rare thing, or close to that. All right, so what we're going to do is talk around the horn, if you will, and talk about the big stories of the day, of the week, and what you guys thought was the most important. So, Greg, why don't you kick us off for that?
Well, I really have a couple weeks worth, because we had planned to do this last week, as you recall, and we did not. We got something more important happened that we talked about. So I felt like last week was in some ways more important than this week, and I want to talk about that. But before we get into the top story, I want to just say something about fear, because I feel like fear is really important right now. I feel like there's a lot of fear going around on the Twitter, in the articles that people are reading, and I get it. We all feel a little bit afraid because now it's getting into crunch time. It's 5 weeks away from Tuesday is election day.
Wow.
That's not a long time. It's basically a month. If there's going to be October surprises, we're almost into October. This is it. I mean, in 5 weeks from Tuesday, election day is going to happen. Maybe we win on election day. Maybe it takes a couple of days, but we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, anything can happen. So we're all going to feel a little bit uneasy until that day and the result is over. And even then, we're not going to totally be able to exhale fully until noon on January 20th, when Biden is sworn in and the federal government resumes existing and being able to do stuff, which would be great. But in the meantime, while there's all these scenarios being played around, all these people writing, what if this happens and what if that happens, and it seems like every other day there's a new, oh my God, can you believe the scenario that's going to happen?
Crazy. And
Trump is going to get his person in the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is going to decide 9-0 in favor of just keeping him around. And it's like, no, they're not. They're not going to do that. That's not how it works. Just resist the temptation to fall into this fear and panic mode. That is what I urge you. This week it was the Atlantic story about the Trump campaign. People in the Trump campaign are trying to figure out ways that they can circumvent the voters. You know what that means? That could just mean Jared on Google. I mean, come on, it doesn't mean anything. Just break down the story. Jared Kushner used Google to try to figure out, shit, man, what could we do? What in season 27 of The West Wing, what weird Aaron Sorkin fever dream can we come up with to use all the laws in the disposal? Well, it could be this, but then that happens. The chances of any of this stuff happening is very slim. Most likely what's going to happen is,
as you point out, is the fear, but it's also the fear designed to get more Republican voters out, because the polls are pretty dismal for the Trump campaign. I mean, they're just, they could squeak out a victory for sure, but they only squeak out that victory if they get a lot of Republicans turning out. So, the more he gaslights them about voter fraud, and the more the mainstream media falls into that trap of amplifying that gaslighting, the more people show up at the polls on November 3rd. So, he is just trying to ratchet up fear. He's going to go if he loses. He has to. He's going
to go. It's fine. The process he'll just sort of, first of all, he will, if he loses, he's going to run away, everybody. It's like we keep saying this and people don't
Yeah.
believe us, but it's all he's ever done is quit and run.
Yeah.
So
Where to, though?
I want to, somewhere where they'll put a big face of him on the side of a building and
UAE. He's going to go live with Eric Prince in the UAE, man.
Yeah, pretty good, safe bet. It'll be the Middle East. But I do want to temper that, though, with I think we need to temper this sort of so make sure denial's not sneaking in here either.
Yeah.
Barr is up to a bunch of fucking shit. He is.
Mm-hmm.
That's all he knows how to do. He doesn't really know the law or how to. The attorney general, he knows how to, gargoyle his way around into little dark corners and try some fuckery to shut something down and fuck up something else and just, get his kingdom going.
That's what he does. He does it really well.
That's what he does. He's really good at it. That's all he knows how to do. He thinks that means being the attorney general, but it just means he's a tyrannical sort of firebomber. But so I do think they're fucking around in North Carolina. I think they're trying shit there. I do think that this, the great Don Winslow, I just adore. He's a good man. Put out this, tweet of like, if you can't see this Pennsylvania, 9 ballot thing as a sort of, I don't remember the word. My brain's a little gone, everybody. But, as sort of the bullshit farce that it is, and you're not paying attention. So you're right. The mainstream media needs to stop carrying their water through hyper, hair on fire horseshit. And Adam Davidson put out just an incredible thread today.
Yeah.
It's so good about like, hey, journalism, wake up. You got to do things in a different way here. You got to stop this muscle reflex. And it's like what we talked about weeks ago, Zev, of like, they're in this dysfunctional relationship with him, with the Trump administration. And they know they're doing it. They know they're fucking up. They know they're carrying the water of the disinformation. They know they're reacting. They don't know how to stop doing that. So they just keep doing it more, going, oh, we know we're participating in this, but we can't stop. And it's a real dysfunction. It's really like watching an addict and an enabler just locked in this dysfunctional relationship. So, as much as we can sort of wake them up, great. Otherwise, just stop listening. Greg's right. Just don't listen to that.
I thought Adam's point was really good about, the reflexive instinct of believing the secretary of whatever, or the official voice is always there. You're always going to lean in towards the official voice. And this time we can't. We can't just reflexively lean into what Pompeo says or what Barr says or what anyone else says from this administration, because chances are they're lying about whatever's happening.
And that's a good point. The farther along we go in this administration, it is staffed by sycophants, lickspittles, and morons.
Teenagers,
these people are not.
There's no one there.
I mean, look, we're going to talk about the Comey rule. We're going to talk about the Comey rule a little bit at the end here, but the portrayal of the incoming administration, when there were still a couple grown-ups present, was still dipshittery beyond all proportion. And now when you have like acting secretary Chad Wolf and acting secretary Ratfucker or whatever his name is, and you have these guys, Pompeo, these guys are jokes. They tried to do, I read this thing, they tried to screw Hunter Biden, they do the Ukraine thing and this and that, and all they wound up doing was getting Rick Perry in trouble. That's how stupid they are. They can't even hit, they try to hit their own guy, and they can't even do that. And they're trying this elaborate thing to get Hunter Biden and Ukraine and this. It's so complicated. You have to be like a QAnon weirdo to even begin to understand it. Meanwhile, Donald Trump Jr. is on his fucking laptop, coked out of his mind.
Oh God, did you see that? Unbelievable.
He looks like,
delete that thing.
It's like 3 a.m. at Nell's or something.
What's going on?
Back in the day. That's your son, and this is the guy that's going to take over. This is the Republican nominee in 2024. Yeah. Come on,
unbelievable.
Well, it is.
I wonder they have such a good relationship with the Brazilians. What are they trading?
Well, I mean, and the Russians, they're the ones with the diplomatic.
Right, did you see that the other day? The Russians had a whole coke smuggling ring through their Argentinian embassy. Like tons of coke flowing through there. It's just insane. Unbelievable.
They're traffickers. It's a mafia state. It's just like these are the goods, everybody.
It's a
These
mafia
are
world almost.
it's a mafia world.
And it's like you
Wait, I
watch
want
The
to say one more
Sopranos,
thing.
and you don't want to. The son shouldn't mess with the drugs. That's every mob movie shows that. Junior can't even do that right. Okay,
And
sorry.
they always do. And they always
What's
do.
that line? Don't use your
they
supply, or
shouldn't-
don't mess with your own supply, or something. I don't remember what it is, but that line
Yeah.
is
All right,
probably
but
true.
I want to say
him.
say one thing back on Greg's point before we move on. Of the other part of denial that we got to resist is the inability to accept what's gone. That SCOTUS seat is gone. And the sooner everyone accepts that and knows that it's gone, here's how it's going to benefit. It's going to benefit in two ways. First, you're going to really finally, the Dems, I think, are going to finally really deal with how important elections are. And we've been saying it for the last 4 years. But this is why you got to have your own deep bench. You have to have plenty of talent coming through the ranks. They need to be nurtured. We have to stop hanging on to like these archaic, political name, dynasty, whatever, thinking they're somehow going to rescue us or make everything all right or make everything okay. Fuck that, right? It's really important that we win every single election and especially the Senate. You got to take that Senate. You see how powerful it is, number one. So it's good. It's a painful moment now. It's a painful era we're going to live through, but never give up this fight, right? That's one. Two, look, the people who have been on their crusade to end abortion, and they are crusaders. They don't care about anything else. They don't care about fucking anything. They really don't. They don't care if all my rights are stripped. They don't care about shit.
Nope.
They don't.
There's nothing more important to them.
They're single issue voters and they're on a crusade. And they really are bothered by this fucking monster that we've got as president. And this has been their suffering, right? That, they had to vote for him and, God told us it would be a flawed messenger. And, it's been this painful experience for them. But that they had to deal with, he paid a stripper. He fucked a porn star. They've been clutching their pearls and saying, but we know he's going to get us the right. And you know what? He got them what they wanted. And they're all out there now saying, you know what? It was worth it. But don't think that they believe he's going to give them more of that, right? This was as dark and cynical as it is. This is what they were calculating, is that Ruth Bader Ginsburg was going to die. And that was the seat they wanted, and they got it. So maybe they will sit this election out to a certain degree because they got the only thing they fucking wanted.
Oh, they got a lot. They got a
show
lot
up?
of what they wanted. And
They got a ton of what they, but I mean, this one thing.
Yeah.
So this is their hope, right? And so, the more we can keep putting out there about how horrible this man is, I'm ready for his list of abortions that he paid for to come out. Let's get that shit out, finally. There's Oppo research on this guy that people are still sitting on. I don't know what they're fucking doing. Release it, right? The more his son can go at, the more Adderall rocks come shooting out of his nose, right? Like all of this, we're going to keep pushing this in front of people's faces and keep embarrassing the fuck out of them for thinking they can go and vote.
I mean, honestly, I feel like they are so baked in. When you see the polls, everybody's so on the extremes, and there's like 5% of voters that are undecided. That never happens.
Listen,
I mean, it's pretty.
I'm telling you this, though. I'm telling you this. Don't collapse the racist MAGA cult with the actual evangelical pro-choicers.
That's interesting.
They overlap a lot, but don't collapse those two segments.
Right.
So we can just peel off some of them to where they think that, okay, I won my holy war and now I'm going to go and fucking sleep because they've been waging that war since the mid 80s, really.
They've been good at it too. So we're going to talk a lot about these polling things a little later. Unless you want to just wrap up that point, or can I interrupt you there?
No, that's it.
Okay. So let's get back to the top story of your week, Greg, which was.
I'm sorry,
Jared
the top
Kushner.
story of the week. Yes, it was Jared Kushner. I last week there was a whole bunch of things that happened that were important, and I just real quick. Bibi and the UAE, they came to the White House and signed that thing, and then people got COVID right when they were there. We forgot about that.
Really? I forgot about that.
No, they did. They were like, "Oh, White House staffers have COVID." That was like the same 20-minute. Okay.
Oh my
So
gosh.
that was a week ago. We haven't heard any reports of COVID from those governments, so maybe they got away unscathed. And it's like, this isn't a peace treaty. This is like mobsters meeting up. This is a sit down. You know,
I love
come on.
that Netanyahu brought his dirty laundry. Did you guys see that? That he every time he arrives at the in the States, he brings up bags and bags of dirty laundry. And in this particular case, he was a little bit more conscious of it because there was a bit of a complaint put out that maybe he shouldn't bring months worth of laundry for the presidential staff to clean it out. But only Netanyahu would be as cheap as that.
You mean actually? He actually brought dirty. I thought you meant dirty laundry.
Actual real dirty laundry. I was like, wow, it's not even metaphorical. It's just the actual thing.
So, I have no comment about that.
I have nothing to say about that, other than to acknowledge that Greg is right. That these are Jared's money launderers, right? These are Jared's kingpins. They just showed up. They've been in business together all this time. Why do you guys? Why do you need peace with one another, right?
They are one and the same thing. So
it's not. Yeah, it's such a load of crap. And I think people knew that. Vindman, Lieutenant Colonel Vindman, came out and said he thinks Trump is a useful idiot for Russia. There was Virginia had the early voting. Remember, we saw all those masses of people standing in line and voting. Right. I don't think they were voting for Trump, guys. So yes, maybe the lines could have been better, but this is a bad. If I'm Trumpy, that's a bad sign. That suggests enthusiasm. Kanye West urinated on his Grammy for some reason. I don't know. Maybe he thought that would improve his presidential chances. I would still rather watch that than a Trump MAGA rally, but whatever. And then Barr gave that rambling speech where he talked about all kinds of crazy shit, but he talked about John Kerry, which is interesting because Kerry was the guy that busted BCCI after Barr was trying to cover it up back in the his first go round. So we got
Florida
those
branch.
things.
They got all around that Florida branch of BCCI.
That's right. They did do that.
This week, Ron Johnson put out his report with what's his name, the guy that hit the deer, Chuck Grassley. In Iowa, and the Burisma, whatever the fuck, the report is nothing. It was basically like, it's a report on the Great Gatsby. We're going to look into the Great Gatsby, and they just took pages out of the Great Gatsby and handed it in. And it's like, no, man. And it's ridiculous because I wrote a piece in December saying that this guy was basically part of a sleeper cell and he would be activated closer to the election. And now we're getting closer to the election, and guess what? He's been activated. I wrote about it in December. This is not
which
easy.
guy was activated? Wait a second. What did I miss?
Ron Johnson. He goes to Moscow. Ron Johnson, senator from Wisconsin, goes to Moscow 4th of July, 2019, and then comes back, says all this crazy shit. And I wrote in December, he's going to start doing crazier and crazier shit. And it's getting closer to the election. And guess what? He's doing crazier and crazier
Russian
shit.
Actual
then somebody tweeted at me that the election in Wisconsin was very close and really suspicious. So maybe that's what they have on him. I don't know. They have something on him. The guy is, to quote what McCain said about Rand Paul, he's working for Vlad Putin. I don't care what anybody says. That's it. But my most important story of the week is back to Kushner, because this happened. Catherine Ebon at Vanity Fair, again, last week, I think Thursday afternoon, Friday morning, sometime when all of a sudden, right after it dropped, lots of other stuff started happening, wrote a follow-up story about the Kushner report, about how Kushner had, assembled this team of his billionaire buddies and his college roommate and like some dude he met at the gym. I don't know, these people to come up with a plan for the pandemic response. And the people did. His friends actually did come up with a good plan, or a better plan than what they actually did, which was nothing. And the people gave Kushner the plan, which involved lots of testing. Let's test. Let's get the data. And by testing,
that was going to save us 140,000 people lives.
They pulled the plug. They pulled the fucking plug. They pulled the plug on that plan because the thinking was, Kushner said, well, it's people in New York and New Jersey and California. Those are Democratic states. We can blame the governors. It will be good for us politically just to let this go. So That's when I wrote my Blue State Genocide piece and pointed out that Kushner is from New Jersey and lives in New York, and as LB said at the time, hangs out a lot in Los Angeles. These are the 3 states where he spends all of his time, and he's willing to let his friends and family die. Right. So he's an evil fucker. When this is over, this man must be in prison for the rest of his life, the rest of his miserable life. But it gets worse, people, because in the follow-up reporting, now they're talking about, remember the push to do the Defense Production Act. Everybody was begging Trump to do the Defense Production Act. We need ventilators. You had companies lined up. Ford, I believe, was one of the companies lined up that said, we can do it. Tell us what to do. Sign the law. Let's get going. And Jared didn't want to do it. He didn't want to do it. He refused. He said, quote, this is from the article in Vanity Fair, the federal government will not lead. It's up to the states. Right. Because I guess it's 1845 or something, right? And then they pointed out his team. This is for inside people that he knows are like, dude, the PPE, like states are bidding against each other for the PPE. We need the federal government to buy all of it and allocate it because that's the safest, surest way that it's going to get to the places where it needs. And he said, quote, Cuomo, meaning the governor, Andrew Cuomo of my state of New York, Cuomo didn't pound the phones hard enough to get PPE for his state. His people are going to suffer, and that's his problem. That's what Jared Kushner said about the state where I live and the state where he lived for most of his adult life. Fuck this guy. He's an evil fucking guy. Okay? Whatever happens with Trump, no matter what happens, when we take the Senate, investigate this fucker and put him in jail. He deserves to be in jail. And if he's guilty of espionage, he deserves more than jail, quite frankly.
That's right.
These people treason when they're in prison. They treason. Manafort is in prison, treasoning with Rudy Giuliani. There's a reason why capital punishment is done for treason in every human society from time immemorial until like 25 years ago.
That's right.
And Bill Barr brought it back, damn it. So that's what I have. That's my 2 cents. I'm sorry to get all
you're absolutely right.
I know some of the liberals don't like when I bring up the capital punishment, but I'm sorry. This man is fucking evil. He's evil. That's it. Try him, convict him, maximum penalty.
Well, that's my news story. Okay, so I only have one thing to talk about this week, and that is that this response to the epidemic, to the pandemic, right, led by Jared, not led by Donald, led by Jared.
By Jared.
I don't know if this actually helps you, but there.
By Jared.
Raph.
Is the 4th largest mass casualty event in U.S. history. It is surpassed only by the 1918, Donald gets confused, 18 pandemic, which is the leading cause, the leading casualty event. Then the Civil War, which is only Americans warring with Americans. So only people going to fucking die in that are a bunch of fucking Americans, right? Which is like 619,000 deaths. And then World War II. A world war.
Those stats are shocking. How much do they follow here on this slide?
Coronavirus,
they're shocking.
It will surpass. We are on track to surpass. I believe we'll probably surpass World War II this year, by this year's end, or by the probably the end of January. So it'll be the 3rd largest. It is the single largest mass casualty event in New York history. More that there were 2 big events. One was the burning of the General Slocum that happened at the turn of the century. That's a really interesting piece of history that happened in New York, where all these missionaries and they all burned in their ship. Just tons of deaths, and there was corruption and horribleness in that as well. They had like life vests filled with sand, right? That because the people with the boat didn't want to have to meet even the regulations in that era in like 1902 or something. And then 9/11 and COVID beat all of that, just flew right past that in terms of numbers of dead Americans. So we're talking about dead Americans, everybody. 4th
absolutely
largest
shocking
mass casualty event in U.S. history.
If you don't think you're living through a war, you're wrong. I mean, we really are in the midst of a major, major war. Now, whether the war is just against the virus that just spontaneously happened or not, I mean, that's up for debate still, I think. I mean, I'm not saying it was biologically developed, but it's, how it spread was clearly intentional. I mean, there's no ways that Donald Trump and Jared Kushner did not have the intention of spreading this disease
weaponized it
further. So, it doesn't really matter how it originated in some ways, but it certainly is clear that these guys went out of their way to kill as many Americans as possible.
That's right.
And are still doing it. And
can we
today?
At the basic thing, when we're talking about the election, and not the cultists, but the people that are still kind of wobbly, COVID is the thing. Mm-hmm. It's really right. One guy is trying to kill us and one guy is trying to save us. I hate to be Manichaean about this, but it really is that stark. You have Biden, it's life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, or fear, debt, slavery, and death by plague. That's it. That's the choice here. So you want to live or die? It's really that simple.
If he's gets elected, he's going to continue this, right? Like, it's not like he's going to stop trying to spread coronavirus. He'll continue until at least the vaccine is ready. But even beyond that, that's only in June, probably. In all reality, it's only going to be available in June. So by the time it gets,
they can't put this genie back in the bottle. So whether they want to continue it or not, even if he thinks, I can show up and I could be the arsonist and the firefighter, right? You can't.
Well, we have to go into major lockdown. We really do. I mean, the only way to stop it is to go into a major lockdown and then, hopefully manage the way out of it again. But right now we're heading into herd immunity, which is, 80% of the population is herd immunity. And we can't go there.
That's 6 million people. 6 million people are going to die.
We can't do that.
And can
it's just, I can't.
Just as a matter of hope here, I want to say something, because this is what I actually think is going to happen. Like, right now, we don't have, as the Jared Kushner story pointed out, it's a federal government will not lead. It's up to the states. That's the position of these assholes. That was the position of Grover Cleveland and Herbert Hoover, right? When big business took over stuff, and then there was a swing. That was exactly their position. It's not the job of the federal government to act. So the federal government is not acting. They're not doing anything. They have their Caputo and their spin doctors in these positions lying to us while they're just sitting on their hands. So what's going to happen is, as soon as Biden is sworn in, right, boom, we suddenly have a functional federal government again, like immediately. And then it's not going to take long before they can figure some of this stuff out. Like, hey, everybody's got to wear a fuck mask. Florida, put your mask on. Okay? We're going to send the National Guard there. You're going to put your mask on, and that's it. That kind of stuff that the federal government has to oversee and, do, they will automatically do. Also, if Trump is the president and there's a vaccine, how are they going to manage giving it out? Like, he can't do that. He doesn't know how to do anything, right? He can't even. So, but Biden Harris will be able to do that. So what's going to happen is, 1 year from now, okay, we're going to be in a Biden administration. Everybody's going to be vaccinated, or a lot of people are going to be vaccinated, and we're going to say, and it's going to look like this in the future. Holy crap! Remember when Trump was president that last year, and we were all sick, and then Biden got this, and like almost overnight we were okay. It's going to feel like that,
absolutely,
because that's the corrosive, like the what's the word I'm looking for? The deleterious effect of not having a guy at the wheel. The ship is just spinning around aimlessly right now.
I mean, they are trying to make things worse. They're not.
There's 40 governors with oars, trying to rowing against each other. We need somebody back there telling them what to do. And when we have that, it's going to immediately make a difference. So keep that in mind also when you vote and when you're talking to people who are on the fence.
Yeah. These guys are also out there for a profit. Jared Kushner and his company are waiting like vultures to buy up all this distressed property in these devastated neighborhoods that have been economically devastated by.
Seize his fucking money. Take his money. Take it all.
I mean, it's just unbelievable that this guys can be allowed to create an event that is so horrible and then try to profit of it, or the back end of it. It's just astonishing.
That's right. That was great. That was your thread, Zev. That was really great. By the way, I really believe you got behind something and looked at it from an angle that no one has done before, of like, they stand to profit on the real estate fallout that's going to happen.
Oh yeah, and this cadre, right? This organization, this real estate investment firm that's sitting there waiting for it. And this is why I say, and you guys have heard me say this many times, and I will continue to say this: there are these players in this world of horrible, evil men, mostly. There's women in there too.
But there are these players that enjoy having someone else out front, right? And they're connected to it all, but they kind of get to sit back and still enjoy the spoils of having celebrity friends and trying to position themselves as oh, we're just doing this. Sheryl Sandberg is one of them. Sheryl Sandberg still positions herself as if she is some kind of somehow separate from everything going on at Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg can't function without her. She's his mommy.
Mm-hmm.
He was put in there to manage that motherfucker.
She
right?
runs
And
the place.
Watch them. She runs it, and she runs him. She runs him. Watch her run him. When they do interviews, she's as much as she can. Oh, I got frozen there a little bit. As much as she can, she's there with him, and she's coddling him and nurturing him, and he's just like sweating fucking bullets because he's just like, oh, Putin owns me, Putin owns me, Putin owns me. Ah! Right? Don't let anybody know. And she's just like petting the baby, petting the baby, petting the baby, keeping the baby happy. That's her. Fuck that bitch.
Yeah.
One. Number two is Josh Kushner. Now, Josh Kushner and his wife enjoy a little celebrity circuit out here. Right?
They do.
They got the Gwen Stefani's my friend, and all these fucking people are their friends. And they still, even though we're in COVID and people aren't traveling, they still have them in the phones. They still have this little social circle because, oh, well, Josh is the good one. Josh is the good Kushner. And Jared, no one really understands. And there's this whole thing about Ivanka and Jared, how no one really understands them, and only this little, talking about cadre, this cadre of like friends that are all in there, all fucking invested into some kind of Silicon Valley horse shit with Yuri Milner. It's really sick out here. And these adults are in this little circle. Some of them are actually the adult children of really powerful media moguls out here. And they do the yachts and they do the planes, and they are still coddling Josh fucking Kushner. That needs to stop
Josh
right
Kushner was
now.
getting cash in on the vaccines, or the testing at least. That was his company, Oscar. And he's going to cash in on Cadre. So he was, basically going to cash in on both ends of this thing that Jared Kushner was setting up for him.
But is he invested in Burisma though? Is he on the board of Burisma?
Well, that's true.
Probably.
There's an interesting thing about Jared Kushner. He introduced, it was Jared Kushner that introduced Donald Trump to Peter Thiel. And Peter Thiel is my number one enemy in the world right now, because this man is new listing for Palantir, which is basically, what does Palantir do? Palantir data mines your information on a scale that we've never seen before. They basically cross-reference everything they find out about you with every database in the world, and they basically can form a perfect picture of who you are, where you are, and what you're doing at any given time. And Peter Thiel started this thing, and it's being used by law enforcement agencies, by the Pentagon. It's been used by for the tracking of coronavirus as recently as this year. And so they've gotten themselves into government, and government loves them because they're very accurate. They do a good job of tracking things. So this week they're getting ready for their IPO, and they're being valued at $22 billion, which is outrageous. But that's because they're going to be earning $1 billion a year from whom? From your government, from you, the taxpayer, and from all these governments around the world who want this information. Because guess what? They get to know what everyone's doing. They don't need any court rulings or warrants in order to find out about you. They can just go into Palantir and discover who you are. If you thought that Facebook was bad, you haven't seen anything yet, because Palantir and the other stuff that Peter Thiel is doing is shocking. And most recently we saw them in ICE. They helped the capture, or I would call it capture, but the roundup of legal and illegal immigrants for ICE. They've done the coronavirus stuff, which really terrifies me enormously. And now they're going to be worth $22 billion. This guy is the guy who runs it. His name is Mr. Michael Karp, I think is his name. And I apologize for this graphic being cut off here, but he looks crazy to me. I mean, I don't know if he looks crazy to you, but this is probably his more sane picture. And he's in charge of the world's data. He controls everything about you. He knows what you're doing at any given moment. He knows your deepest, darkest secrets, what you're buying, where you are, whether you exited from your front door or your back door today, and he'll give you an analysis on what that means. And he's backed by this guy, Peter Thiel. And I should explain where Palantir comes from. Palantir, if you remember the Lord of the Rings, I think it was, there's a thing that is like an all-seeing eye that this guy in the back here, he's from a wizard or something. I don't know what his name is, Gandalf or something. I don't know. He
That's
is
not
the
Gandalf, no.
he has this all-seeing eye.
The White Wizard, yeah.
The White Wizard. He has this all-seeing eye called the Palantir, and so he uses this thing, and ultimately Palantir tricks him or is used against him, and he loses all his power. But we don't seem to follow that part of the moral of the story. Instead, we get Peter Thiel, who is the only person. I don't understand why Peter Thiel ever in the million years wanted to support and endorse Donald Trump, but he did. And Peter Thiel is a white nationalist, for one thing. It was recently reported that he was speaking at a white nationalist convention of some sort. They have those. He's also a funder of Carbon, which is the
eugenics guy. Yeah.
Yeah, he's also a eugenics guy. He wants to live forever.
Beyond white nationalism, it's the perfecting human genetically this belief that Donald has as well. Donald has the old-fashioned version of like a racehorse theory. He's been talking about that recently again. But Thiel is into going in. Yeah, he's very dangerous.
He's got $1 billion institute that looks at how he can stay alive longer. He takes all these weird gels every day that are supposedly life-sustaining and whatever.
Well, they study urine too, so just bringing it full circle around to Kanye urinating on his.
He was the guy, by the way, that used to, I think, inject the blood or have the blood of younger people infused into his body, so however that worked. Remember that was in that show? He was the guy.
I was on Silicon Valley, right?
Yeah, well, he was the guy reputed to have done that. Actually, that's what that was based on. He's also a Netanyahu ally. Of course, he's a Netanyahu ally. Why wouldn't he be? He's a friend of Jared's. He's a friend of Donald. He's formerly of the PayPal mafia. He also thinks the world is coming to an end, so he's bought a big place in New Zealand where he thinks it's the only safe place to be at the end of the world. So he's a believer in the apocalypse. He was a big investor in Facebook at the start of Facebook. He's a good friend of Eric Prince, and he's very close to the DeVos family. I mean, this guy's charming and lovely and wonderful, and I'm sure you'd have him over for dinner. But he is about to cause chaos for all of us because our lives are in his hands. He's got all the data, all the information. And what they've done in listing this company in the public space at the New York Stock Exchange, they've said that only they, the three of them, him, the first guy you saw looked a little crazy, and their partner, can control this company for all time. In other words, no matter how many shares you and I buy of that company, they get to still overrule anything that they say, that we say or want them to do. So you've got this monster that's entering our space right now. It's been around for a while, but now it's about to go boof and go huge, and you're going to get so much money invested into them, and they'll basically rule our lives because they have so much surveillance capability and so much data mining capability. They are, in fact, the most terrifying thing on the planet.
When Trump went to Saudi Arabia
at all on any of that,
yeah,
go ahead.
Terrifying.
When Trump went to Saudi Arabia and put his hand on that orb, was that a prototype of this thing?
Well,
was he downloading all
very interesting.
That orb is a really interesting question. Actually, that orb is we have to talk about it at probably another show because I'll be doing a little bit of digging around what that orb really means and why it was there. And there is also this linkage to the Da Vinci painting that is quite fascinating. That it does seem like that orb is there for symbolic reason, well beyond what it was originally intended to reflect, which is a war against extremism, which I think is what they said it was. There's obviously a lot more meaning.
Whatever their horse shit is. Yeah. So are you ready for my transition?
Yeah, go for it.
This is a great transition. So notice how, these guys, especially that have what we call our fucketeers and our data fucketeers, and even before them, and the narrative, the folks behind all the narrative warfare, the Mercers of the world, right? Mm-hmm. They are obsessed with storytelling mythology. So Palantir, of course, because it's out of the Lord of the Rings.
Mm.
Then we have a lot of Alice in Wonderland, down the rabbit hole language that they use. And you have Chuck Johnson, and who is a Teal fellow as well, and that whole brigade, right, using the Matrix, where red pill and blue pill, and then Elon Musk jumps into it because it's a big Silicon Valley thing. They love the movies and they love the fantasy books. They love this. They love fiction. They love scripted stuff, even if it's nonfiction. They love the movie line, like, and we do too. Follow the money. Right? From the Watergate, right? All the President's Men. That never happened. Deep Throat was never in the garage in the dark at night saying, follow the money. That's a screenwriter that came up with that moment, even though it was actual events, and encapsulated it, right? And gave us that great movie line. All the movie lines from The Godfather that we all know. And even just calling Junior Fredo every time he cooks, or now he's going to be Scarface, Fredo Scarface. I don't know. Which one is he? We don't know, but it's some kind of character from a movie, right? Or a book, because that is the power of storytelling. This is why I have been, as you guys know, as a screenwriter, not even doing my own stuff, but really pushing and backing the filmmakers that I know that were in the key position to get movies made, to get, I sent out a big thread myself years ago of because I had seen some scripts. I saw a script with Nikki Haley in it. I can't talk about it too much. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's I was like, oh shit, we're coming for you, right? My people are coming for you, right? I'm not saying I don't even have my own stuff. I'm just saying I'm not involved in these other films, and I'm helping promote them because I know the power of the medium of film, the power of the medium of television, how powerful it is, especially with a true story, to have an actor portray a character. It brings the whole thing to life. All of a sudden, it's real for people. All of a sudden, they can relate to it. All of a sudden, it sticks in their brain, right? Even a comedian doing an impersonation. Sarah Palin was dead in 2 seconds as soon as Tina Fey impersonated her. That was it. You could never see Sarah Palin again without seeing Tina Fey. So it's
hard to tell the difference sometimes.
I know. Now, Greg and I, and this is because I do know this. I do know the filmmaker behind the Comey Rule. Is an incredible man on every level. Just a great human being. Lovely.
That looks great.
Lovely. His name is Billy Ray. He's the writer director. And I knew when he got that rights to that book, and he was heading off to film that film. He's like, I'm heading off. I was like, oh my God. Because I know what Billy can do. I know what he's capable of. And God damn it, did he deliver. Holy shit. This is great. And Greg, you wrote an incredible review about it. And just so you guys know, even though he's like my friend and I support this, and Greg has gotten to know Billy a little bit, that was a real review. Like, Greg's like, I got to just do a real review of this. And it was a little nervous. You were a little nervous. Greg, you were like, is it going to be good? I don't know. Maybe it's not going to be good. Right. So
no, I was nervous that the movie was, sometimes, it's like spoken people and you're like, I don't know. No, it's great. And it's great right from the beginning. Like within 60 seconds, you're just there. And that's it.
I was a little worried about the portrayal of Donald Trump because I thought, oh, this is a little bit much. But then as I saw more of the promo stuff, it looks great. I mean, he's a dark looking, really dark character, which is so great to see him like that.
It's not a caricature. This is a Shakespearean level actor playing this motherfucker, right? And he does it straight. It's going to make Donald Trump melt down on a level because he's going to finally have a mirror. He's going to have a mirror. Right? This is a man that avoids mirrors. He wouldn't look the fucking way he looks, right? If he could look in the mirror and be honest, he'd be bald and not have that stupid fucking tan, right? Wouldn't have makeup on. If he could honestly face a mirror, he wouldn't look the way he looks. He can't. He can't face a mirror. It fucks him up. So think of just even Alec Baldwin got inside his head and fucked him up, and that was a caricature. This is a great actor doing him. And I don't know that anybody will want to follow this. What Brendan Gleeson does with this, I don't think anyone will want to do Donald Trump again. It's sort of like one of those things of, oh, he did it. It's Sunday and Monday. Sunday night's the first night, I believe, right? Greg, am I right about that?
Yeah. Sunday's the first night. I don't know if it's on Monday or Tuesday the second night. Whatever.
It's rare to
I'm
get
sure
the
it'll
timing
stay.
so good. I mean, they just got it in the election cycle at a critical time. I mean, this is
That was a
almost
fight.
the October surprise.
Yeah.
You know, in some ways, this is going to make people rethink what they know of as Donald Trump, because that portrayal seems so strong.
I mean, I wrote about it in my review, and I compare it, at least not the movie tonally, but the impact of it potentially on The Great Dictator, which Charlie Chaplin made in 1940, or released in 1940, and started making probably even before that, and took a lot of courage to basically lampoon Hitler in this incredible way, knowing that Hitler liked him, and Hitler wore that mustache that he wore because Chaplin wore that mustache that he wore. Right.
Oh,
so
really?
Hitler took the mustache from Chaplin, and Chaplin took it back. And Hitler banned the movie in Germany, but smuggled in a copy and watched it twice. That's what we know.
Yeah, so interesting.
You know.
So,
but
do you think Donald Trump's going to watch this? He's going to be watching every second.
Yeah. Oh, he's going to watch it.
He's going to be live tweeting the entire event.
There's that moment. Remember that moment when, I mean, so many incredible moments. Night one, he's not even in it. He's only in it the very last moment.
Oh, wow.
So
he appears at the midpoint just for a second. Just for a second.
Where's structure? Sorry, my nose.
You can't show the shark too soon. You know, no much. You have to withhold the shark.
Yeah. No, we're into structure. Those of us who do this, you know, we know where we have to hit our marks. But there's that towards the end. There's that moment that we all read about, and I remember for my mother, this really this upset my mom so deeply when she read about how Trump had said to Andy McCabe, ask your wife how it feels to be a loser, right?
Oh, wow.
That horrible, degrading shit that he did to these seasoned FBI, you know, these professionals that were just doing their job. So that is captured. It's incredible. The Stroke Page relationship is done in a very specific way.
Oh, interesting.
And although I admire those two people for the fight, and they're in a fight right now to get all that done, you know, Billy doesn't take it easy on them. Like, you walk away going, ooh.
Because the relationship doesn't come of seeming what?
We don't want to reveal too much.
Okay.
I don't want to reveal too much, but because because the filmmakers did an amazing job having you understand what the stakes were. What the stakes were going on, that we as the Republic had no idea any of this shit was going down, that Trump was being investigated like this. And they did know, a very small group of people did know. And they handled themselves, you know, around all that. They weren't investigating Trump. They were investigating all these Russians because they were counterintelligence agents. And all of a sudden, a huge counterintelligence operation was going on around 2 campaigns, and one was attacked at the server, and the other was human intelligence, human points of contact. Right? You had all these fucking spies that we knew were spies, rubbing all up against all these motherfuckers in this campaign. So you have to investigate that. You can't not investigate that. That's our foreign adversary coming in with their fucking spies trying to attack our democracy. You have to. So, you know, you don't want that. You don't want to be part of that investigation. Stop talking to fucking Kremlin spies. Don't hire Paul Manafort to run your campaign. These are the things that, you know, we all said it for 4 years. We were saying this more now. But it's only going to hit people, really, the average person who isn't deep in this like we are. It's going to hit them when they sit back and they watch it, and there are these characters that bring it to life. And then they're going to get it. Then they're going to get it. They're going to get, oh, that's how the FBI works. Oh.
It's going to be really instructional. And also, it's really interesting that right now, there's obviously an investigation about what the president's doing right now with Russia. I mean, it's just, you know, because right now he's committing crimes.
No, we don't know. I don't know. We hope so.
Sort of, you get the impression, I get the impression, at least from like statements by Warner and others, that this is not being considered as just another collusion thing. This is now aiding and abetting a foreign adversary, I think was what Warner put in his statement. So, you know, maybe there's a little bit more seriousness there. Yeah. I can't wait to see it. That'll be Sunday on Showtime, right?
I was going to say, he sticks to exactly what happened. It's not a Tarantino movie where Hillary wins.
Right.
You know, that's what the Tarantino movie is.
The way that that Billy dismantles without even needing to, right, without even attempting, he dismantles all the, and Greg put this in his review, all these sort of, GOP talking point, all this horse shit that MAG has been putting out, is he just does the timeline. He just tells it how it happened.
That's what you got to
and
do.
The sequence of events that happened. And the whole disinformation campaign around this, all the different tentacles of all these lies that they've been spinning and ways they've tried to spin it, it all falls apart like a house of cards. It's like, oh, they weren't going off the dossier. Like, you see it, you watch it.
It's going to be so important for people to see that. I'm excited to look. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to take a quick break and show you some dancing cows. And then on the other side of it, I'm going to try play 270 to win, if I can figure out how to do it during this commercial break. It's only 20 seconds, so stick around. Okay. Do you want to advertise on Narativ Live? Well, we have partnered with AdvertiseCast to handle our advertising and sponsorship requests. They're great to work with, and they'll help you advertise on our show. Please email sales@advertisecast.com or visit our show notes page. You'll find that in your podcast player where we describe what's on this week's show. Do you want to advertise on Narativ Live? Well, we have partnered with AdvertiseCast to handle our advertising and sponsorship requests. They're great to work with. We don't need it twice. But there you go. Dancing cows. You see those? They're very nice, aren't they?
That's cute. I love it.
There's a version without the dancing cows, but I think on Friday nights we can do them. So I'm going to do 270 to win. I don't know if we have that much time, but let's try. I've got to just activate some windows here. So if you guys want to chat about something while I figure that out, it won't be long. I think I'll just do this. So have you ever seen this 270 to win game? Have you ever come across it?
Is this just a website where you can?
Yeah, it's a website, and you get to basically try pick the winner of the electoral college by going through the each state and figuring out who wins what. So I think if I put this in here, we'll have something that looks like 270 to win screen, and then I got to just do.
Oh my God, gonna make me read.
So this is, the polls have been interesting lately because it really is looking like a dead heat. I mean, in a lot of ways, yes, Biden on a national basis is looking much better, but it is looking like a dead heat. So,
what are you talking about? No, it's not.
It is when you look down at the actual states. When you look down at these specific states,
he's up like 7 points in some of these places.
Yes, he is. So it comes down. Let me run you through what I'm thinking here. So we've got. You need 270 to win. That almost looks like 270 in your screens there. I'm going to have a hard time reading this. But what you have here is this is Real Clear Politics. This looks at each of the battleground states, and it tells you which one of these is looking.
I can't hear. Zev, your voice is wonky.
It is. I think I might be stressing out the system here.
You might be with this.
I'm going to do 270 to win next time because I think I'm going to freeze everything. I think I'm actually
okay.
Well, can we just guess the states that we want? Can we maybe put some? Hey, I want it. What happens if Biden wins everything?
The good news is this:
but he also wins this, right?
These guys are all going to Biden and Kamala. Clearly, Nevada and Ohio. That's clearly going the way of and even Pennsylvania.
Okay,
people
how
think
many is that?
is going to.
How many is that?
These might be repeat things here, but I think Pennsylvania has. Let me pull up this chart. It's even more interesting.
Sorry, guys.
So I might be trying to overshoot with my technology here, but here we go. I'm guessing you didn't hear a word I just said there. Did you?
I didn't hear it.
No, I didn't hear anything.
Oh, sorry. I'll just do it again. So in the middle there, you see the toss-up states. Those are the 4 states that really count on election night, according to at least some people. This is the Cook Report that's doing this electoral forecast. So it's Florida, Georgia, the Maine 2nd District, and North Carolina that are really the toss-up states. And then there are those that lean Democrat there. There's far more that lean Democrat than lean Republican. But if you look at the top here, it all comes down to these 4 states to get to 270. So it's still quite tight. And in those states, it's very, very tight. These are the latest polls. This is the Washington Post survey and ABC News did today. This is Florida, Biden-Harris 47, Trump-Pence 51. And in Arizona, Biden-Harris 48, Trump-Pence 49. I mean, that is so close. So you can see how those are the states that are going to be, the critical states come next November the 3rd. And this is also an interesting one worth putting up here. You can sort of see the geography there, but the details hard for me to read. But it does look like Biden's going to win, but it looks like at the end of the day, it's still quite close in some of those swing states. And we're in for, quite a battle at election night, actually, in terms of figuring out exactly who wins. That's my takeaway from seeing those things. Other people might have a different thing. That's not bad news. I think it's amazing that Biden has got those 3 states that were so critical. He's got Ohio in all likelihood. He's got Pennsylvania, and he's got Nevada. Those are big things they've gotten. And it does always come down to oftentimes Florida and Pennsylvania and those kinds of swing states. This time it looks like Florida is going to be hugely important.
Unless Texas is in play.
Yeah. And
what if Texas is in play? My son keeps telling me that Texas is going to go blue. So
it might. They're all so close, and there's definitely the demographics in each of these states has changed so much that even since 2016, the demographics have favored the Democrats more, which is why he's leaning towards these fear tactics that he's doing. These rogue voter ballots that he's talking about, or this voter fraud. All of that is really designed to get as many people to the polls as possible, because especially in this is an interesting study. Let me just put this up here quickly. In some of these states where there is a really tight battle, if the Republicans can have a lot more people show up at the polls, this is Georgia, for example. You can see this. If it's a high turnout, Trump does better than it is if it's a low turnout. So you can see that part of this is really a turnout game, and that's why it's so important on the day that people do get out and vote, but also that people, the parties get their people out to vote. Now, I think Georgia is looking pretty good for the Democrats because of what Stacey Abrams is doing there. And it feels like there's going to be a much bigger drive towards getting people out to vote on voting on election day there. That could help balance it out a little bit. And that Republican surge they're expecting because of a high turnout, that may be balanced out by what the Democrats get as well. But it is still very good news. It's not as good news as you want to be, but 5 weeks out, it's not a bad place to be because you don't want to be too high because people get despondent and they sort of lose their desire to vote, and that could lead to a lot of voter suppression. So going in for dead heat as we close into November, that's not a bad place to be, and then we need something to close the win as we get to November 3rd in the last little bit there.
Yeah.
But I'm an amateur at these, so I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe all his talk about how it's all terrible and they're going to steal it and it doesn't matter and blah, 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 and blah, 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 will suppress his voters.
Yeah.
Yes, it could.
And
look, people are getting loads of information every day now because we're just learning so. Even the Comey thing that you're talking about, that's going to help influence voters. They're going to start understanding him very differently as they watch this portrayal on TV. So any number of things can and likely will happen between now and election day that could swing this in either way. But I think knowing what we know about how awful Trump has been, the likelihood of dirt on that side seems higher to me than the likelihood on Biden's side.
Well, the fact that he's doing rallies in these places without masks and people are getting COVID is probably not going to help him ultimately a month from now. Sadly, absolutely. I don't like to say it, but it's probably not a good idea to kill people that might vote for you. Seems basic, but he seems to have evaded the understanding of that.
And I think that the COVID surge is not even, not that we obviously no one wants that at all, but that is likely to happen. It certainly seems to be happening around the world, no matter where you look, whether it's Spain or Canada or anywhere. There's those numbers keep ticking up. The more they open up, and it increases the amount of COVID infections, and then that impacts hospitals. So that could happen around the same time as the election, which have all sorts of effects. But certainly remind people of how awful it is.
Well, I
The other
have
thing I want to,
my
oh, go ahead.
face shield and my mask, and
Yeah.
I have my cover, and I have my thing, and nobody is going to stop me from voting in person.
I think that's what everyone's going to do. I mean, judging by the amount of confusion around the mail-in votes, I mean, I think people have got them in great, but I don't know. If you want to really be certain, you're going to have to be there because, you just don't know that
I'm
your mail's going to
going.
arrive on time.
I am going. I will
I'm
look
going.
like Jude Law in Contagion. That's what I'm
Oh
going to
my
look
God.
like,
That's,
and I'm going to vote.
You're going to look great, though, in anything, really, but even in that, you'd look great.
Yeah.
We should
like
we should
color.
do a whole day's programming there. I think we should be up at least in the evening and do the results, but maybe during the day, pop in and out and do some coverage and figure out exactly where the hot spots are and where the challenges are, because there's no doubt the lawyers are going to be in for a big job.
Big job for the lawyers. And
Yeah.
so let's
I wanna-
pump that again, everybody. We'll put a link out again. I'll put it out after this tonight. We do have the link that goes in directly to the campaign. We do know that they're using money that comes into that to make sure they have a good war chest, legal war chest. Mark Alias, who you saw us last week, was it, Greg? Was it last week or 2 weeks ago? We were like,
I've lost track of time.
100,000. That's a great, the toughest, most incredible attorney we have on our side fighting for election security and voters' rights, and he's out there swinging away. So we need the money needs to come in. I know everyone's like, okay, Senate races and House races. Yes, we're supporting all that as well, but don't forget the down ballot effect, right? And don't forget the war chest that we're going to need where it comes really close. When we can really play this 270 game and know what, right? Like, we'll see.
And that's why the dead heat thing is not a bad thing in these battleground states. It's the way you expect to be, and it certainly should encourage people to donate more. It should encourage people to pour their efforts into those states and get more people to vote. Call your friends and family, register them, make sure that they're going out there and voting election day.
Cry. He's been crying lately. Oh, Lindsay's been crying.
Biden is actually very good at this. He's done a few elections in his life. And if you really look at the way he's done these things, he always leaves just the right amount of power at the end to come in. Now, I know he hasn't won before in this way, but in this time, you can sort of sense he's playing this very, very carefully. I still think it's going to be a resounding victory on November 3rd, but it depends on turnout, obviously.
I want to say one more thing. Shout out to my man, Fred Harding, who pointed out a couple weeks ago that all of these polls have a margin of error of like 2, 3. The ones you showed there were 4.5.
Yeah.
The media likes to assume that they're going to go 4.5 towards Trump, and that makes it more of a horse race. But it's just as likely to go our way.
Right.
I mean, it might be a big blowout. So I want everybody to remember that. I've been kind of glancing at the comments this entire time, and we haven't really been able to comment. But they've been great comments. I just want to thank everybody for commenting. And the one thing is, the quote, Zev, from before was, "Don't get high on your own supply."
Thank you.
Own supply.
There you go.
It rhymes. Get it? Yeah. So thank you, everybody, for watching and leaving the comments.
Thank you for knowing that.
Yeah.
That's great. I couldn't do it today because I'm trying to redo my setup here and I'm looking off in the wrong direction. So we'll all be on chat next week. But thank you guys for following up. And we've got some big shows coming. And I can't tell you which dates have which guests, but there's some big things coming in the next few weeks, which I know we're all going to look forward to. And we're going to be here all the way through Election Day. So thank you for watching Narrative tonight. And we'll be back on Tuesday. Phew, it's the weekend, finally. Like, we can tell the difference these days. I'm trying to find my animation. Here it is. We got through it. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.
Support Narrative's independent journalism at patreon.com/narrative and check out our podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe and download.